So Peculiar have started it.
Okay, I'm sorry, if you were saying anything, I could not hear you.
You could not hear me. Is it better now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I was just saying like thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay, okay, please, 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 to have me.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Modu Michael, and I'm going to be the host for this GDSC after exam series session. We are happy to have you on this call, even though we are still waiting for more people to join in. My boss, aside to Habibs, I can't pronounce your surname, so I'll not just say it. You're welcome, sir. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, please, while we are waiting for more people to join in, please, if we can just quickly go to our social media platforms like WhatsApp and quickly just send the picture to people so that they can join in and know that the program is already live. We would really appreciate that because we want everyone to be a part of this program and to gain from this program. Thank you. Just sending the picture or the link invite to any group so that more people can join in. Thank you so much.
Waiting in your mind to know anywhere go, I go follow. Yeah, you making me high, Colorado. I really mind if I overdose. This kind of love, baby, that's in me. This kind of I wanna know why you know it for me. I wanna know. This kind of love, baby, that's in me. This kind of love, take my soul. I give you for free. It's in the mind, I wanna know.
Good afternoon and welcome, Miss Bumi Akinremi. We are happy to have you on this call. Welcome. Okay, good afternoon everyone once again on this call. We appreciate you for coming out to or for joining this call. Um this is a special program put together by GDSC FUNAB to reach out to as many students of FUNAB and help them by giving them a platform to listen to tech experts and developers in the industry with enough experience over years. So this after exam series is going to be running for 3 days, and this is day one. And the theme for day one is the Debugging Diaries, which is a deep dive into a developer's journey. Now, the lineup of speakers we have for today's event are I don't I don't want to go out of I don't want to go out of character and say something else, but the lineup of speakers for today are lit, and this program is going to be top tier. We are happy to have Mr. Habib on this call and Madam Bupumi and every other person on this call. Also on this call, it won't be right for me to proceed without acknowledging the presence of the GDSC FUNAB lead, which is the person of Miss Abolade Peculiar. So please, Ma, we need you to say a few things before we can proceed into this program proper. Over to you, Ma.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Please, if I'm not audible enough, just do well to signal or drop a reaction so I would know how to adjust my audio. So, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, Abib. Thank you so much, Bumi. Michael, thank you so much for agreeing to this program. It really means a lot to GDSC and then FUNAB at large. So, it's an honor to be a part of GDSC and be the GDSC lead. The experience so far has been very, very good. And then the fact that I get to meet like lots of people, get to understand their pain points and how to provide solutions to their problems in tech, it's a great honor. So thank you very, very much for joining. And most of the people that are on this call today are community folks. They understand how the community work. They know what the system really means, and they know what it takes, yes, to have a community that stands the test of time. So thank you so much. I appreciate you all for joining. So this program is actually in a bid to follow the core objectives of GDSC, which is connect, learn, and grow. So we're trying as much as possible to connect the students to experts who would help them in their tech journey. It has gotten, in fact, it's a maybe not a well-known fact that lots of people face challenges in tech. I can remember somebody was Ada, the commander of Shipod Africa. She posted out an anonymous, and then somebody was like, "Tech is not easy. Tech is not easy. Don't let anybody deceive you." And the person was ranting. To be fair enough, it's like the tale of every other person. Tech is not easy, but GDSC is creating a community for everybody. It's not easy. It's not easy for everybody. Let us do this thing together and make it very easy. So we also learn together as well, putting up workshops, organizing events like this to ease everybody of their stress and mental drain. And as well, it's an opportunity to grow with people, mingle with them, And then as you learn, you implement, and you tend to like solve more problems. So it's a very great honor to be here today, and it's a very great honor that we called, and every speaker here today answered our call. So thank you very, very much. And then from my own table as the GDS lead, I welcome everybody to this great event. And as much as people will be learning, I would implore us to have as much fun as possible. Our social media break, let's post on Twitter, let them know something is happening. The tags will be readily available for everybody to post, tag GDSC, tag the speakers, tell them what you learned, and then it's going to be an entertaining event for every one of us. So thank you so much for joining. I would hand over to Michael Modu, who will be moderating this event. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Miss Peculiar. That was a wonderful introduction to what this program is all about and a brief introduction of the core objectives of GDSC. So we are going to be proceeding with this for now. Pardon me. We are going to be proceeding with this program, and please, I also want to appreciate the speakers again for tuning in right now. Really appreciate your audience or your presence once again. Now, in as much as the numbers on this call are not much, I think this call or this program is being recorded, and there is a very high probability that it's going to reach as many people as it can, because there's a YouTube channel for GDSC Funab. So please, to the speakers, please, we admonish you to not see it as a hindrance or as an issue whatsoever. Thank you so much. So I would be calling. We're having a lot of people joining in this call. I see you, Oluwatobio Opeyemi. I see you, Anuluakwo Elizabeth. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And Mr. Adibo Bello, welcome, sir. Okay, so I'll be calling on the first, not calling, I would be handing over to the first speaker for this event, which is the person of, um, please, pardon me. I'll be handing over to the first speaker of this event, which is the person of Mr. Badibo Bello. So please, sir, over to you, sir. And before I do that, I want to, side by side with the logo is the speaker's profile. The speaker, Mr. Gbadibo Bello, pardon me for the pronunciation of the name, sir. If it's not right, I sincerely apologize. Mr. Gbadibo is a software engineer, an adept technical writer, and a community driven person based in Lagos, Nigeria. He is strongly passionate about web technologies, communities, open source, and has been advocating in that space. He believes open source is a culture of giving back to the community and has been actively making contributions. Now, the last GDSC info session we had, if we were there, we would have seen Mr. Gbadebo Bello. I was one of the few people that was opportune to learn from him, because he spoke a lot about open source and he advocated for them and also laid out platforms to participate in open source projects. So, sir, we are happy to have you and we'll be handing over to you now. Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Betty Bobilo. You can more conveniently call me Debo because everyone calls me that. So I'm really excited to be here with everyone today, spending time with the community, and getting to have really great conversation. So aside from being a speaker, I'm also here to learn from the other people that are going to be sharing from their wealth of experience. I used to lead the GDSC community, I think in 2019, 2020, when I was the lead. And after then, there's been a couple of other amazing people that have taken the baton to sort of lead the community as well. And now that Peculiar is the lead, I'd say our team has been doing really amazing. So it gives me joy to be able to come to events like this and get to like spend time with people, get to learn about the activities and whatnot. Currently, I work as a developer relations engineer at a company called Postman, and pretty much I work in developer relations. Occasionally, get to speak at conferences, work as an engineering support for the DevRel team, and get to author content and do the other things that people that work in developer relations do essentially. So yeah, that's pretty much just a little about me. So Michael, is there anything specific you want me to talk about, or you just wanted me to introduce myself?
Um, sir, we wanted a brief introduction of our speaker, since you're one of our speakers for today, and this is the period of your session, and we would love to hear from you, your experiences to becoming a developer. So,
Okay. So that's sort of like an open question on what my experience has been like in terms of growth and how I eventually became a developer, right?
yes, sir, all the challenges and the paths you took to being a developer.
Okay. So I think what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to share my personal experience, really pretty much what got me into tech and how I eventually got into software development. Then how I got my first job and all of that. Um, which is the format I'm going to use. So I started off being well, a very curious person. And initially I didn't know the word tech existed or the word developer existed, or that you could work as a software developer or a software engineer and get paid for doing that. I think I grew up just being curious about my environment and wanting to sort of understand how things work. And by things, I meant hardware. So I destroyed a lot of things growing up at home. I remember back then, I used to open up our DVD and couple it back just because I wanted to see what was inside. Or the couple our fan. I tried to like build really basic and really basic projects in terms of like hardware. So I started off being very interested in hardware generally. And while the software part was interesting to me, it wasn't something I invested a lot of time in doing. What I really got into software was that I figured that hardware was really expensive. Because I used to work on like really small miniature projects back then. And there was this time where I embarked on this journey to build a drone, and I had saved up my salary for I think 7, 8 months. I think then I was earning like I just finished secondary school, so I was working with one very small company as a sales consultant, and they were paying me I think 12,000 per month. So I'd save like my entire savings every month and put that together. Sorry, how long is my session? So I'll know how long I'm to speak for, so I do not go beyond my time.
Okay, sir. Um, you have 15 minutes, sir.
15 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you,
so
sir.
then I was okay, so then I was sort of working with this company and they were paying me every month. So every month after I receive my salary, I get to save up, and then also sort of had like my transportation fare to it because I needed as much money as I could get. Then after saving up for like 8 months, I got some of the components I needed, built the drone, it worked, and I just wanted to like change a couple of things in it. And I think just a very small connection where you're supposed to connect negative, you're connecting positive, and it fried the entire board. So they sort of had like this thing called like a flight controller that's sort of like the brain of the drone. It's fried everything, and the flight controller was very expensive. And as at that time, if you wanted to buy something from abroad, it takes about 2 months to get to you. So I was buying it from I think Banggood. When Banggood is like AliExpress, basically just a modified version of AliExpress, and it sort of made me depressed, right? Because I had spent so much money, saved for months, and invested a lot of energy into trying to build it. And just one tiny mistake destroyed everything. So it was just sort of like me saying, okay, hardware is expensive. I can't afford it. It was time consuming and I didn't have the resources. So I was like, okay, maybe software is not as expensive. maybe I could go into software, make money from building software, and then invest that money into buying hardware components and doing hardware on the long run. But eventually, um, that sort of happened. But the phase I was at then was the figuring out phase, right? How do you learn how to write code? Where do you go to learn how to write code? And it's pretty much the same thing that I see a lot of people struggle with these days, where they know they want to do this thing, but they really do not know where to get started. And oftentimes, people are looking for people who would want to and hold them and sort of teach them, because we are sort of used to going to school, sitting in a classroom, and the teacher gets to like put us through everything. So when you want to get started in tech or you want to learn like a new programming language or something, you are looking for someone who can teach you, right? Someone who's going to sit you down and give you like that formal education and step by step guide on what you're supposed to do, basically handhold, which was essentially what I was looking for as of that time. But luckily for me, I gained admission into a polytechnic then, and I met someone who was an ethical hacker. Um, so he wanted to introduce me into hacking, but I wasn't interested in hacking. I told him I was interested in software development, and I just wanted to learn a skill that I could use to build something and make enough money to buy hardware components. And then he advised me to learn HTML. So then I started off learning HTML, and I didn't have a laptop of my own. So I was sort of using this ITEL phone. And thankfully, W3 schools had a compatibility with that ITEL phone. So I was able to load W3 schools and tutorials points on that phone. So it was all this small ITEL Torchlight phone that had internet. Somehow, internet was able to work on it. I don't know how. But I don't know if I'm describing those phones properly, but those phones are like really old phones. So luckily, I was able to use W3 schools and tutorials point on that phone, and I was just sort of learning HTML, writing code on paper. And I had this roommate back then that had a laptop, but mostly what it does is it just sees movies on the laptop. So at night, I'm able to like borrow his laptop, and during the day, write code on paper. At night, use his laptop to practice. But it was still not as convenient, right? Because the owner of the laptop has to use his laptop. And it was like an external keyboard, an external mouse. It was a 1 gig RAM laptop. So it was always hanging too. So imagine having to like use um I think on screen keyboard with a non-functional mouse on a 1 gig laptop that was basically hanging. So that was pretty much how I started really. And then I learned HTML to some extent. And eventually I bought the laptop from him, saved over a year and paid him for the laptop. The laptop eventually became mine. I got an external keyboard, got an external mouse. I got better in HTML and CSS. I was able to learn JavaScript. So then what I was doing was, because I was in a polytechnic, I wasn't in computer science. I studied electronics engineering um in my ND. So what I did was I made a lot of friends in computer science, and essentially some of them do not really do projects that are that complex for their final year projects, and a lot of them didn't know how to write code. So I just approached them. If you can give me 10K, I'll build your final year projects for you. And I kept doing that, right? So I kept working on projects for them, started making some money from it. And then I was reinvesting that money in IoT. But again, it's still the same story that investing in hardware is really expensive. Like, you literally would damage things, and you need to be able to replace those things that you damaged. So I just started losing interest in hardware from there on, because I felt I couldn't afford it. Even now that I was working and making some money, on the side, I was also making like this customized wristbands that I could like write your name with twine thread and whatnot. But from there, I was able to learn with the guidance of that guy. So what really helped me was sort of having someone that I could ask questions along the way, despite the fact that I was basically just learning from W3 schools and tutorial points. As of that time, I didn't know the word developer community existed, or didn't know people could do what I was doing full time and make money from it. It was just me wanting to build something, right? Just being curious about stuff and just wanting to hack around stuff and whatnot. So eventually I kept doing that till I graduated from my polytechnic and I gained admission to FUNAB, studied the same course, electrical electronics engineering. And I would say the most transformational part of my career is being exposed to developer communities. And that's because there was so much I didn't know. There was so much potential that I had that I was not really aware of. And the only reason why I got exposed to some of these things was because a community like GDSA existed then. And it was very liberating for me because when I heard about GDSA community, it just felt like home, right? Because a lot of times I'll be frustrated, I'll be stuck, I won't know when to find solutions. I'll literally just Google, go on Stack Overflow, and not really know who to go to for guidance or anything of that sort. So when I got exposed to the community, it's just I had like a community of my I was literally a nuisance on our GDSC group then. I was always asking questions. I was always trying to contribute to conversations. I was always trying to make friends with one person or the other. And basically I was always making noise on the group, but I wasn't making noise in like a terrible way, more like contributing to conversations, trying to understand stuff, tagging people, asking questions, which was one of the things that really helped me grow. And being exposed to the community made me understand that what I was doing was something that you could build a career path around, which I myself didn't know. I figured that you could also work full time doing what I was doing and make a lot of money from it and own a career out of it. So pretty much leveraging on the community, which is why leveraging on communities is always very important. I know there are a lot of people on this call today that have been a part of GDSA for a while, or maybe they just joined and are always reluctant to ask questions. It's always very important to ask questions, right? You might be new to the group, you might not know everyone on the group, but I can assure you, no one is snubbing your message, right? If there's someone who that's why it's a community. We are here to help each other grow. If you ask questions and no one is responding, you could leave a reminder that did anyone see this? I really need help with this. Um and someone who is able to solve that problem for you, who is able to explain that concept you're trying to understand, would guide you through. Right. So there's no harm in asking questions. There's no harm in coming to community events like this. I know this is a virtual event, but in physical events, you get to meet people physically, right? There's no harm in walking up to someone and trying to start a conversation with them, trying to understand what they do, what their experience is, and trying to learn from them. Because you don't know who you are meeting, you don't know who the person is or who the person would become. The person can become your very good friend that you eventually end up being building phenomenal stuff together or doing really amazing things. So like I was saying, I was exposed to GGSC community. I became a nuisance. I became very active, always attending events, always offering to help out, always asking questions from people. And while still in my 100 level, luckily and fortunately for me, I became the GGSE lead, which was very weird and awkward as of that time because essentially when you think about the GGSE lead, most times you think about people who are either in their penultimate or final year. It really isn't an engagement that someone in their first year would want to take on because it's a lot of responsibility. It's really time consuming, and 100 level, you are literally still trying to build your GP, right? So devoting like a lot of time to community event and whatnot in your first and second year can perhaps maybe take a negative toll on your academic life, which it did for me, right? It affected a lot. But I was really glad about the opportunity to lead the community because it exposed me to, it helped me grow my network and it exposed me to like a lot of opportunities and whatnot. um so about communities and getting like your first job, right? I would say one of the ways in which I got like the very first job I ever did was from the community. And it's one of the reasons why I often encourage people to be active in communities like this. Always talk about what you do to people, always try to learn about what people do. And when you work on stuff, right, you don't keep it to yourself, you share it in these kinds of community. Because the first job I ever got, really, I won't say full-time job, I would say the first contract role I ever got was really someone just saying, guy, how far? Get this my guy, we want to do this project. Sure, you interested. How far? What's that they do? I know they interested. Recommend me now, introduce me to the guy, and then got the project and did it. In fact, I've had like three people, 3 or 4 people that I've worked with that I didn't get to apply to those jobs. They were basically just recommendations from people that I was like, maybe I'll just enter people's DM and I'm like, bro, how far am I? They find job, or if you have anything for me, or if you find any opportunities, please just send it my way and I will apply. And I literally did not have to go through an application process. So I'm talking more on the community side of things, right? Because that's one thing that has helped me grow. So it's always very important that when events like this happen, one, try to meet as many people as you can. Don't just meet them or exchange contacts for exchanging contacts sake, right? Try to understand what they do. Try to tell them about what you do. And the other part of it is collaborating with other people in the community, right? Try to work on projects with people. It's one of the things that has really helped me. I've worked in with like multiple projects with multiple people, right? And even my first full-time job that I really got, I think it was a recommendation from someone in the community. Also, we're just chatting, and I was like, I'm I'm looking for new opportunities. That I've been freelancing and doing like contract roles for a while, and I don't have any job. And it was like, okay, there's this my boss that I used to work for. Is hiring someone that writes JavaScript and Node.js backend. Are you interested? I'm like, yes, I'm interested. I jumped on the call with the guy, 10, 15 minutes. We're already discussing salary. It was because one, I had worked with that guy before and he knows what I'm capable of. He knows that I'm qualified for the role and was able to speak on my behalf to his boss that I have this person who is a perfect fit for this role. And because I had done well with that person, I was able to get in through his recommendation. In fact, I'd even gotten a recommendation from, I think, Abib, who is also on this call as well. When I worked with a company called Snapcards, I worked with them for, I think, about a year or so. And it was basically just a recommendation from him. And because he had worked with the said person before and he had done really amazing job with the person, his recommendation was trusted. I didn't go through a thorough interview process. So it's just basically a conversation and we're already negotiating salary, right? So it's always very good to, one, build your skill sets using the community, right? You can leverage on the community to grow and develop your technical expertise, but you can also leverage on the community to also get exposed to opportunities and get recommendations, right? There are other ways in which you can get your like in which you can maybe get your first job or become like a developer. I know, like, if I want to start talking about applying for jobs, what's an application process should be like, how you can find jobs in roles that you're looking for. I think I'm frozen. Please, if you can you guys still hear me? I think I was frozen for a while.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. It's flowing smooth here.
Okay, okay. So I could there's a lot of other things that I could talk about in terms of like applying for a job, how to identify roles to apply for, how to craft your CV, how to prepare for an interview, or what skills to acquire. But I'm coming at it from the community's perspective because I feel like that's one part of it that oftentimes when we are talking about becoming a developer or building a career in tech, a lot of people consider it not as important, but it's also very, 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 like, very important. I think now I'm out of time, so I don't want to eat into the other speaker's time. But yeah, I hope I've been able to communicate something reasonable to everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Debo. It was wonderful having you speak to us. You spoke a lot about community and its importance, and that advice alone is very invaluable. It's very important to developers anywhere. Thank you so much, sir. Please, if we have any questions for the speaker, please we can put them in the comment sections or send them in so that we can ask the speaker. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll be moving on to the next speaker for this GDSC FUNAB after exam series, and the next speaker is Mrs. Pardon me, Miss Bumi Akiremi. Okay, so I'll be reading her profile now.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, well, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Apologies. Hi, everyone. Um, Sorry, I won't be able to put on my video because I'm not in a so great place right now. But my name is Bumi Akiremi, and I don't know. I think there was a mistake on the flyer. It should be Bumi, not Bukumi. But it's fine. And I am currently a machine learning engineer. Code ambassador. Okay, I think I froze. Sorry. Um, so special thanks to Peculiar and Anu that sent me the emails. I it's really an honor. Um, I'm sorry, I came from supposed to have a class earlier today, so I was unsure whether I'll be attending or not. But yeah, glad to be here. Um, yeah, so where do I start? I was asking Peculiar, where exactly am I going to start? Don't be fooled by the fancy bio. It's just words, really. Um, I'm currently a student, so I probably don't have after school experience. Privileged to build your growth. It doesn't mean that without community you won't grow, but community is a very good leverage. And the question I see people have often is when you say community is good, the question is how is community good? So I will try to explain by sharing how community has been good to me and how I have contributed and how it's also contributing to me back because it's supposed to be a two-way thing, right? Not necessarily somebody giving you back help, but then just things just happen. And I think another thing I have to emphasize is that community is sacrificial. I mean, you want to organize an event, you're here running, you've probably not slept for 2 days because you wanted to make sure everything works fine, right? You're here calling this vendor, calling somebody else, and then you have to go to classes, but then at the same time, you have to submit assignments, you have to prepare for tests. Why doing all this, right? You're still a student, probably you have like a job, and somebody might just send a message, and the message might be maybe a little bit rude, and then you're so angry because you're like, I'm giving myself away, and then you're not even appreciating it, right? So just like anything in life, right? Contributions are not always appreciated. So that's another thing you should take note of if you're looking to be a community advocate. So aside, I don't think popularity was ever my drive. I never wanted to be popular. Up to now, I still don't believe that. I don't think I'm popular anyways. Just a few people around me that know me. So I'm not looking for fame. I'm just looking at how can I share what I know, right? And know more, really. I'm a very curious person, like to delve into a lot of things. And sometimes when people tell me I get into tech and I'm confused, there are so many things. I'm like, yeah, I can relate because even me myself, I'm someone that I like to learn a lot of things, right? Let me give you an instance. So right now, okay, uh, some months ago, I was learning about research policy. Policy, I mean like laws, policy, right? As regards AI. And then another time I was reading on history. Another time, and the same thing, I'm reading concurrent papers, I'm reading research, right? Currently, I'm focusing on quantization. So I'm into different things. At the same time, I'm reading about investments, right? How to have like good credits, right? How to know how to spend your money, plan for your future. I'm just doing like a lot of things. So not because there are a lot of things they are not overwhelming me. It's just like my own personal drive and curiosity. I don't like being one side of life. I mean, it's boring. If all I know is tech, right? There is more to life. That's what I tell myself. So maybe you're someone like me, and you might get caught in the trap of being too many places at one at maybe at a particular time. I totally understand. The only thing you have to know is being able to set priority. Okay, this is high priority. This is my career. Maybe this is what I want to focus on for this quarter. Then these are just the additional learning things I do in my free time to ease my head off bugs. I mean, since morning I've been here trying to figure out how to do some sort of infrastructure distribution, like because I I've been trying to do some more like do hyperparameter tuning, uh, large scale. So it's like I have like some bottlenecks, and I've been since morning trying to figure out how am I going to do this. Like with ChatGPT, with everybody. Later I sat down and figured this out on my own. So it's it's yeah, there's coding, there's writing, there's a lot of things in my life, and it's been a wholesome experience. I don't know how else to tell you, but as regards community and being, yeah, I'm a gold ambassador, currently the only gold ambassador in OAU, and I'm also the only GitHub campus expert in OAU. And I heard a lot of all these community positions, and it's not just about the name, right? Although recently I've been so engaged in other personal matters that I have probably not been as active as I've always been, because like I just have to sort these things out first, as they are personal and very, very, very important. So, but yeah, I organize a lot of events. Not because again, as I said, I'm not promoting myself, right? But seeing that there is a lot of opportunity from maybe from these companies, right? And then people don't know about it. Come on, like you have access to free stuff from GitHub, for example, and then you're here screaming that you're looking for hosting, you want to get started in a web development project, and you're like, because you don't have money to host your website, therefore you are stuck. And I'm like, are you kidding me? GitHub is giving you literally free hosting. Why don't you just grab this and experiment? Like there are a lot of stuff you can use, and I see this, like I interface with this like on a regular, right? Whether it's from Microsoft, from GitHub, or from companies, and then I am like, I think students need to know about this so that you would not have um, a very scattered journey like my own, because my journey is not something that is sweet. It's not something like it doesn't have phase one, then phase two, then phase three, then no my oh god, my journey is very zigzag and scatter. So it's not something that is very delightful to hear sometimes. But that's what drives me basically as being part of the community, just sharing and let people know, right, things that are available for them to become resourceful. Okay, I believe in school, I believe in education, I believe that school is never a scam, please. You see, those what I say school not scam. Go and check, they're in Canada doing their masters. All of you sit down there, like you think it's scam, right? Just check. Many of them are doing their masters, and like, why then are you spreading fake news? Why spreading, like, there's a whole lot of opportunity even aside jobs. Like, for once, if you're looking at career, right, you're not just looking at a job, yes, but then there is more to career than just a job, right? A job is good, it's like a propeller because it provides the funds. I mean, something has to fund your passion, because a passion without funds is ordinary words. I mean, it's like you're chasing clout or you're chasing shadows. But yeah, that is very important. And I'm happy with some of the testimonials gotten recently by people, some getting jobs, some feeling better about themselves, some people picking up from where they think probably this cannot work for me, like, or some people really being depressed about what life is after school, and getting to know that okay, this can work, and giving it a try, and it actually works. Like, I mean, that's my own personal joy, right? So being a community contributor as for example, giving me a lot of leverage. Like, I don't know if I should be saying this here right now, but for example, speaking at global stages, being part of a global organizing team. I mean, for Global Azure 2023, I think that was um, around July, August, I think. So I was part of the global organizing team. When you're at the top and then you're looking at all the countries are submitting to you. The kind of stuff. But not because I mean I'm still a student. Come on, no, I don't have all the Oga vibes, but it's just an opportunity. Somebody recommending you. Like the past few days has been recommendations, and that's when I knew that. You see, doing what you do, like you just don't know. You seriously don't know. Like there were some they were looking to launch this particular program, first of its kind, like for the first time. And then they look at, okay, who can we bring on board? And then someone was mentioning my name. People, someone mentioned my name, right? Like, okay, let this person try. And then they discuss with another sector of people, and then someone is mentioning my name. And I mean, this is not Nigerian based though. Like, and then this is mentioned. I mean, this is mentioned like yeah, she's a community person. This is mentioning my name, and then they now come. When they now come to Nigeria, like okay, they recommended this person. You that you're like the head, maybe the head of operations in Nigeria, but you're like, yeah, I know this girl, and you have no idea. So now somebody just they now sent you a meeting invite. Like, okay, we just started this program and we received a couple. In your head, you're like, who is mentioning my name? Abeg, I don't know. And then you're so wild when you found out the loop of people mentioning your name, right? Just because, not necessarily because you're an expert. I mean, I don't even have. I'm still working on my BSc, so I'm not an expert in AI. So definitely that is not a criteria. But because they've seen uh, somewhat my community engagement and all those other things. These are just some of how it has benefited me, right? Uh, Me giving was very difficult, very, of course. I mean, sacrificial. Some days, like I'm carrying the whole world on my head, right? Trying to think about this, and people don't understand this. But again, I tell myself, you don't have to understand. I think the result is all that matters, right? Making sure swags get to the community. I mean, it's not easy for you to tell companies to surrender swags. You have to present without fallible evidence that your community needs swags. But when the swags come, everybody is treating it like it's their own. Where's my swag? They're like, hey, something that I suffered for. But then needs to know about that story. Nobody needs to know about what happened in the background, right? You're here, everyone is happy, right? You host events, there's swag, there's food. How does it happen? Nobody asks, right? Nobody knows what goes on in the background. But again, it's sacrifice, it's giving your all without even expecting to receive. And then when the reward starts tripping in, you're like, oh my god, right? And they're like, yeah, don't worry, we know you're not a fake it till you make it. We see the evidence, like there is evidence. So sorry that I'm rambling um about my tech journey. Again, as I said, it's not sweet because it's not it faces. There were a lot of there were a lot of rough roads, and me, I cannot talk about salary because I'm still, just like Ask Sultan said some months ago. Me, I've not even seen 4K like this. But we thank God. Not because I don't want to see not because I don't want to see 4K, but I think for me, even above all this, my academics is still priority to me, right? Because I'm a student, I do not neglect my academics. Sometimes I may have to stop classes, come back, but I have to, like, how do I recover this? No. So, yeah, I think my time is probably up already. Uh, I hand over to the moderator. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. Um. I don't know if it was just me. Probably the listeners also on the live chat would probably be saying God when, because I was just saying God when all through the whole session we had with you. Like you shared a lot. Actually, you shared a lot, and I don't know. I'm so excited and I see a lot of possibilities in what you do. I remember I myself started with data science, but after training Titanic data set, I ran away. So, so thank you so much, ma. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your wealth of experience and all you said. Thank you so much. So please, to everyone on this live session, please, we'll be going on a 5 minute social media break. And the tags for this GDSC FNAP session are going to be in the live chat on YouTube. So please try as much as possible to make a post detailing what you've learned so far or showing your presence on this call so that we can get a wider reach and so you can actually document what you've learned from this session so far. We've had two great speakers on this call in the person of Mr. Debo and Miss Bumi Akiremi. So they've shared a lot. So please, this social media break, you can just send out a post or two on Twitter, target GDSC Funab and GDSC itself. Thank you. The tags are in the comment section. Please, questions for the speakers can be dropped on the comment section so they can be compiled. When we return from the social media break, we are going to be asking questions to the two speakers that have spoken with us so far before we dive into the next set of two great speakers we have for this session. Thank you. So please, you can drop your questions on the live chat comment section. Thank you.
Aunque tenga personas, dice que a mi mano me vuelve a traicionar. Dímelo, mami, quiero conocer más de ti. Dicen que tú te la pasas preguntando por mí. ¿Qué vamos a hacer?
All right, so we are back from the social media break, and by now it's expected that every viewer should have sent out a post on Twitter detailing what they've learned so far or just showing that they are in this meeting. Okay, so without further ado, we'll be moving to the next speaker for this program, and the next speaker that's going to be coming up is the person of Mr. Habib. Permit me, sir. I do not want to say something else or your something, but Mr. Habib, we are so happy to have you as our next speaker. And and a brief introduction of our next speaker, Mr. Habib. Mr. Habib Shukweju is a research engineer, machine learning at Tom Reuters Labs. Is interested in building information retrieval and machine learning systems. So,
Yeah. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's a privilege to be here. So, without further ado, we just like go straight in. Um, Quick one. I have like a Notion page. Is it possible to like just share? If that helps. Can you hear
sure,
me?
sure,
Okay.
sir, you can share.
Okay. I'll just do that now. Um, so, um, just let me know if you can see it. Okay. Wait. So to just quickly get started, basically I spent some time thinking about what my journey has been, and when I was reached out to understanding of this was to share like the struggles faced and some of the things I've come across in my developer journey. So the bullet points here basically just go from where I was when I started up to where I'm at just about at this point. So just so I guess everybody when you like are looking to become a developer, the first question is what language do you learn? For context, while I was in secondary school, I was already writing HTML and I could write basic CSS. However, then it was just like a hobby. I did not really take being a developer as like an actual thing that people do for a living. It was just one more cool thing that I could do. Um, so I'm getting into the university. I think that's one thing I've actually liked FUNAB for the developer community. I almost immediately could see people who were building stuff with actual programming languages, not HTML and CSS. So I had this urge to learn an actual programming language. And as you can tell, there are lots of options: C++, C, Java, Python, Dart, Flutter, and so on and so forth. Like there are infinite amount of things to learn. So for this particular struggle, looking back, basically I basically chose Python then because it felt like it gave me options to do so many things. Hence, it's helped me delay taking that decision on what language to learn. Because with Python, you can do backend, you can do data science, you can do cybersecurity, you can go into networking, you can do almost anything, well, except front end, I guess. Although you can still do that if you push it hard enough. So there are many other metrics you could use to decide what language to learn. In my case, it was uh, Python seemed to be like a general purpose language and it could do so many things. However, for other people, it could be what language do you have those close to you writing more? The pro of doing that is that when you are stuck on an issue, you have people to reach out to and ask questions from. It could be what kind of jobs are you looking to work in? If you are looking to become a front-end developer, then you'll be doing JavaScript. It could be what kind of things are much more interesting to you to build. It's this particular one is kind of hard to decide when you're just getting started, mainly because you don't even know what the possibilities are. So those are just some metrics you could use to decide what language to learn. But after I decided to learn that language, the next struggle that I was facing was okay, I see all these people talking about how they can code in like multiple languages, but here I am, a one skill pony, and I really cannot do anything else aside writing in Python. So what do I get to do at that point? I think I remember one conversation I had with Bosun. So Bosun used to be a GDSC lead, and for context, I was also a GDSC lead. He was a GDSC lead just before volleyball, and you mentioned one thing then about if you are very good at writing in one language, then you likely don't even need to bother yourself with multiple. So by the time you actually now need to write multiple languages, it becomes easier, mainly because you have the context for why you're learning that new language, and you have built like confidence around like a base, so you can easily transfer the knowledge you've gotten from one language to multiple or the others. There are actually other languages that differ significantly based on their concepts, but at the very least, that confidence is always going to be there. And after learning to write Python, and I was quite good at it, I actually did get to learn JavaScript. I think I learn JavaScript again every single time, every time I need to use it. So basically, I learn today, I forget it. Then the next time I need it, I have to relearn it. And I've only actually used JavaScript in a job once for about 2, 3 months. Um, while I learned Java as well, and I've only had to use Java for a couple of months. So if your job actually requires you to learn multiple languages, that one is like very specific and you know why you're doing it. So in that case, then you know what to do. But if it's a case of you looking to learn multiple languages because you feel it's the right thing to do, then I could just say take that pressure off yourself, learn one, be very good at it, like be very good at it. Then if there's a need to learn multiple, you can take that confidence into others. Uh, that's what I've done basically. So this is coming from a personal bias. So the struggle of being a generalist versus being a specialist, I think I relate very well to what we mentioned earlier about doing multiple things. So if anybody knows like me for some time, you know like my nickname used to be Axot, so that's HAKSOAT. That it's basically Axe of all trades, and comes from a story of me doing so many things at the same time. And I think I was a bit good at some of them, but for it to have become like an actual nickname, you could very easily tell how much of a generalist I was. But the thing is, the world does not reward generalists so well. So if you're very good at doing so many things, the problem with doing that is you don't spend enough time on a problem that you're able to make enough impact on it. Uh, you keep being like at the shallow level for so many things. At the same time, while the world rewards specialists, there's always the risk for a specialist being pigeonholed. So I always had this fear of if I only write Python now and Python just for some reason goes off the surface of the earth tomorrow, what do I do with my life? So that was one of the main reasons why I really did not like the idea of being a specialist. And the fact is, I did later turn myself to be a specialist in some way, but with a different perspective. So just to chip this in, I got to learn about the concept of being like a T-shaped person, where by the T you can see the way the T has like this long stick at the middle. You have like deep knowledge in one or two things, while by the tab on it, you have some idea about so many other things. And my thinking then was also the assumption here is that we get to live like for many years. If I get to do a certain thing for 5 years, for example, and I lose interest, I could very easily take the knowledge I've gotten from that one and become like and grow the depth in some other few areas that now interest me. So that initial fear of I don't want to know so much about something that I know nothing about anything else usually does not really make lots of sense if you look backwards, because when you make that switch, your knowledge, your depth of knowledge from one area would always help somewhere else. But if you do not actually really know something well enough at one place, then you really cannot benefit much from it elsewhere. So that's how I actually dealt with this particular challenge. And I remember very well watching lots of videos about being a generalist versus being a specialist. I would spend days thinking and thinking about how I was living my life. The next one here for my journey is the data science struggle. Uh, since I learned Python first, then as with almost everybody that learns Python first, the initial drive would be to tilt towards data science because data science is the new oil, as they say. Um, but it just was not working for me for a couple of reasons. In there, lots of statistics, which I actually know those statistics. And there are things that I did not know there that I was looking to learn, which I was putting efforts into doing them. But the issue I had with data science was I really could not see the goal, the end point. For others, it could be like that's easy for them to think about. Some people like get very excited at the thoughts of building dashboards, at the thoughts of doing analysis, and I'm like, so if I do all of this analysis, what happens? Like it's still someone else that has to make a decision if they intend to act on all of that analysis or not. So I started tilting more towards the engineering part of things, and mainly because the end goal for the software engineer to build software, obviously. Then I came across machine learning engineering as a field, which is applying concepts from data science into building your software and getting it to work there. So just finding that change of perspective kind of helped me a lot because it switched the kind of projects I was working on. I was no longer doing analysis. I was now looking to build models that would be working through the software because like it just sounded much more fun to me. This would probably be different from the way other people would have tackled the same problem. But the point here is find what works for you. What works for someone may not necessarily work for you because we all have our different strengths, and the way I see things, I probably never just be able to see the way you see them, and that could probably be your own advantage. Then leveling my computer science fundamentals, I studied engineering, so that's electrical electronics, but I did not get to lots of computer science stuff. So I had to read lots of books about operating systems, databases, programming languages, um, different concepts basically. And this took time. So while you feel the imposter syndrome you'd often get from not knowing enough of computer science fundamentals, uh, you should just have this mindset of it's a marathon. So just keep putting the same efforts, which is basically what I'm still doing now because there are lots of things I don't still know. But just having that mindset of it's a long time journey and it's not like something that ends in 1 year. So over time you'd cover up for all of those weaknesses, and um, this leads to deciding what to work on. People often ask, so what project do I work on? For me, it's always been, what am I interested in doing? If I see like a very small problem, it doesn't have to make sense. I just like go and build something small on it. It doesn't have to become the next Facebook or the next Twitter. So that's just my thoughts on that and how I did approach projects in my journey. As for being broke, which I think many of us would relate to, I think I still relate to that somehow. Um, my approach to this was to write. So I did lots of writing, write articles. You it's this for me. It was not just technical articles. I was writing articles outside the tech space as well. But I did get to write a lot. You'd often find like other tech related stuff that's not necessarily relating to you writing code, but would bring in some money for you, pending the time that you get your skills to be up there. I had this thought of if I'm writing articles, but I don't know enough, how do I get to have enough confidence to write? Um, so the point there is just do it. If you make a mistake in your articles, people will make comments and you fix that. It's an iterative process. So you should not let, oh, I don't know enough about this to stop you from like writing articles. There are like articles I go back to look at and I'm like cringing, like, did I really write this? But the point is, it still passed the message. Whatever it is that was missing from that did not really matter in that context. I think I'm going to run out of time soon. But for finding an internship, my story then was I did lots of calling. I called lots of companies. I think I had like almost 30 lists of companies in Lagos that I was like actually calling their phone numbers, if they had openings. Um, but as Badibo mentioned earlier, referrals would probably work better because when I got my first internship, it was someone I knew on the WhatsApp group who basically just told someone in his company that my guy is applying, and I had the interview next week. So comparing that to all the people I had called, who basically were like, we're not quite sure if you have an opening, we'll let you know. So um, if you're looking to get a role, network with people, work with people, volunteer, just get to work on one or two things. with them. It doesn't have to be anything complex. Uh, so I think I'll probably run out of time now. So I could probably just skip the rest and just go to the part of fighting complacency to wrap up, which is it does not matter why exactly you are doing. Yeah, you want to be a developer, to be honest. The only thing that the world really cares about is if you are good at it. So if you're doing it for the money, if you're doing it out of curiosity, if you're doing it because you just want the fame, like nobody really cares. The only thing they care about is you being very good at it. Because at the end of the day, that's what really influences other people. So if you are working on something now, put in as much effort as you can. Don't think like the Nigerian standard, or don't just limit yourself to looking at those around you. Like look at what others on the global scale are doing, learn from them, read their articles, like just have that mindset and keep pushing yourself. So that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Habib. Um, we are very grateful for what you've said. Knowing how to deal with, you came at this session with an angle of how to deal with being a developer or starting out and knowing how to choose a programming language. Normally, everyone has gone through that phase of which programming language should I learn? Python, Go, Golang, and just learning any programming language. But what matters most is the context. And actually, I feel like it's controversial to what you said last or what you used to wrap up. You said something about it doesn't matter what your intentions are for going into tech, whether you want to make money or you want to learn, you have passion for it. But all that matters is you do it well. Hmm. I think that actually clears the whole argument for me. So thank you so much, sir. I'm very happy and grateful to hear from you. It's an honor to hear you speak. Thank you, sir. So we'll be moving on very quickly to the next speaker, which is our last speaker for today's after exam series session, which is the person of Mr. Sodiq. So um permit me to read out the speaker's profile. So Mr. Sodiq, who is currently on this call, we appreciate you. Mr. Sodiq Akinjobi is an accomplished program manager with more than 5 years of experience in global marketing, community building, and social media platforms, who brings wealth of knowledge and skills to the table. His background includes a proven track record of success in streamlining documentation flow, implementing community strategies, planning and organizing events and hackathons, leading product teams, coordinating testing and technical documentation, and conducting market research. Wow. Actually, as many people that are on the GDSC FUNAB WhatsApp community would be very, very familiar with this particular name, which is a Twitter username, which is Geek to Talk, because it was, for me, he's mostly one of the persons that I find very interactive. Then, I don't know about now on the WhatsApp, because you only see that nickname, Geek to Talk, and all. So, we are very excited to have you, and the stage is open for you to take over. Thank you, sir.
You know, I'm a shy person, so let me try and be unshy. Hi everyone, super excited to be here today. Let me boot for like a second. I can't find my glasses. Okay, so hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to the GDS lead and our team who have put together this event. I heard Debo speak, and of course, Debo has been my friend for like a few years now. Debo, Axot, I call him Axot, but his name is Habib. Debo Habib, and then the amazing Bomi speaking earlier. And I think that the points that they have shared, they are very important points. And I'll just be building on that and talking a bit about my journey and my story. And then so I'll do that for about 5-7 minutes, or 5-10 minutes. I'll try and break it down into the part that I remember. And then once I do that, I would have a very short panel session where someone on the call will be asking me some few questions around all of these things. So I had a slide that I had used in the past that just contained like short details about me, and it's just easy. So my name is Geek Tutor. I'm the first of three children. I sort of grew up in Mushin. If you know where Mushin is, yeah. So I grew up in Lagos. I think I started my tech journey in 2012, and I like to use this bigger overview because for the first few years I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know Jack. I was doing it, but I didn't know what I was doing. So it's fine if you are confused, if you don't know what you're doing. Even up till this point, I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm still doing it either ways. So I started my career back then, and what I've seen over the past few years, I'll be talking about my journey over that time and where we currently are now. So I'm really passionate about like education, people, technology, and I'll try and share the bits of my story that I remember with you so that you can see. So at 22, I was just leaving secondary school, right? And as I was leaving secondary school, I recall that there was something called Jet Club. I don't know if you do have it again in this generation, but we used to have Jet Club in secondary school then. And then I used to play with Webs and Webcar.mobi. So just sort of playing with the platform back then. Um, and so that was around 2012, right? I think a few years down the line, maybe 2014, 15-ish, I found out about Facebook community. Yes, Jet Club, Press Club, all of those clubs. I found out about Facebook communities and I joined Facebook communities. And I found out that but you could so I was doing things like social media management, telling people how to manage their social media, telling people how to use social media, doing all those different things. So there were things like that at that time. I think platforms like Buffer, YouTube, all of those things that social media managers use, they were just coming out, and not a lot of people knew how to use them. So I was dropping strategies for like social media. And then I think around 2015, I'm not sure of the timeline, the exact timeline. I saw WordPress for the first time. Remember that I had played with Wapka and Webs in the past before. So just playing with that led to me knowing that, okay, so I had an experience with trying to create websites with site builders, right? And using code because in Webka you can also use code. So I think around 2015 I started WordPress, and it was sweet because as at when I was doing like Facebook communities, I was already making a tiny bit of money from our Facebook communities back then. Of course, the money that looked big that time, it's not enough to buy Chicken Republic now, but we gotta do what we gotta do. So I met WordPress. Then I think I became a part of ALC. I can't remember the exact year, but I became a part of ALC. And then at a point, I started like, so I was studying systems engineering in school. And in school, interestingly, you have to do, if in my department, you have to do like C sharp. So I did C sharp. I think I know I didn't get an A. I'm not sure, I can't remember what I got. Maybe I will look for my that thing, that statement of result and find it. But I know I didn't pass it as well as other people. So when so I thought it was hard, right? Remember, I was already doing WordPress, but I thought like I was doing WordPress from the site builder perspective, not from the dev perspective as at that point. So I thought it was hard. Only for me to go to start doing AOC and seeing Android dev with Java. And then I found that, so this is actually easy. But maybe whether it was because of interest, whether it was because of the way I was taught in class, that didn't make me get an A or pass as much as I would have liked. I passed though, but I don't think I got an A. And then I found out that this is actually sweet. Then I think around 2018, I also became a MCP, that's Microsoft Certified Professional. Then I think around Then I did Code Lagos first as a student. I think I was a student. How did I learn? I think it was also Java, building on that Java knowledge. And then I became an instructor in the next cohort because I already had like small experience and I had the opportunity. And then I would say like in 2018, I fully like became ingrained in the community. So doing like started ingraining in WordPress community, speaking at WordPress conferences across Africa. Into also became the GDSC lead. Was that 2019? I believe it should be 2019, 2020. I believe. So, but I was first in the core team in 2018 before the next year, and I applied and I became the lead. And I was lucky to be in the same set as Debo, who is now my sponsor. So it's just like really amazing to have all this amazing network of people from just one program. And then of course, along the line, I'd done a few things also. Like I started machine code, part of like a fellowship that I was in the past, teaching people in machine how to code. Then I ventured into open source, and then of course phenomenal growth from there. What I had tried to do is that before 2018, I never wrote like a year in review. So if you go to like my Medium, all the part that I had talked about, they are not like on Medium. But what I've tried to be doing now is that since then, I've always tried to be writing year in reviews because, and that's one of the things that I think is pretty important. We don't tell enough stories in this part of the world, and it's really important for us to tell stories, right? So that even for myself, look at me now as I was sharing some things, I can't remember when something happened. It's not because I intentionally don't want to remember, it's just that I have to rack my brain and constantly think before I can remember when exactly something happened. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so I have to rack my brain before I can remember when something happened. And it shouldn't be so. But if you had written, and that's why I think journals are really important. If I had written, if I'd been writing from then, I can sort of just maybe do a search in the journal, if it's a digital journal, and then find out, oh, okay, this is good. In fact, I pity myself when I want to write this year's year in review because I also can't remember some of the things that happened in January or in February. But I'll try my best. But at least it's also a good idea for you to also appreciate progress because most of the time we are often lost in like the hustle and bustle and the trouble of constantly running and constantly doing things. So it's always a good idea to be able to reflect and either review yourself to do better or review yourself to, yeah, be able to review yourself to do better. So yeah, so that's essentially like what I've been up to. I've been lucky, I think at different points in my life, I've been lucky to get the opportunity to have different things. I've been lucky to have the opportunity to meet people, network, build some amazing projects. I heard Debo speaking about like the power of like networking. Most of the things that I have done is mostly because I know somebody or somebody I've spoken in a room that I'm not a part of. And that's essentially what that's been for me. So that's just like a rundown. I prepared I have somebody that is going to ask a few questions that I'm now going to answer. And then I hope that will now give like more insight into like part of my journey into getting started with technology, into some of the things I should watch out for. So over to you, Gift.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice being here. So my first question is, what was your motivation to get into tech? What pushed you into tech?
I think it first started from what was my motivation, sir? I know right now. If I right now part of the motivation is money. Of course, money where in the place where there is impact. But I think back then it started from a place of I was just I was young, dumb, if that's the good thing to say. And just I had some time on my hand. So when my mates were like, they had the luxury of like watching TV in their house after secondary school, but after school back then, I'll go to the cyber cafe with our money for food and just be playing around on all those things I mentioned, webs.com, Wapka. Just I didn't know what it was, but I was just playing around right at the cyber cafe. So it was not as if I had like a computer in my house. Then down the line, and I found out that all this thing that I'm doing, you can. I think it was in when I joined Facebook community. I said, people were making money from this thing now. So it opened my eye that so you can make money. And then I think that I'm really lucky that I'm making money, and at the same time I'm making impact in the lives of thousands of people year in, year out. And so for me, the joy of that, I know that I can never be stranded if I need anything. But at the same time, I also know that the joy of like seeing the smiles or hearing stories of people that whether through something I have done or something that I've been a part of, it has changed their lives because of that. Is really what drives me to continue this journey.
Okay, thank you. So, were you provided any opportunities that you were able to leverage on when you started, like an available platform?
Ah, I think that I think the short answer is yes. I can't remember what those platforms were now, but I think that some things is that now it is way easier now because everybody is here, right? Okay, it's easier and it's harder at the same time. It's easier in the sense that everybody's here, so opportunities are everywhere. So you can even ask on your GDSA group or anywhere, and then you find a stranger from Canada or a stranger in the US or a stranger in the UK answering whatever questions you have, or even helping you out with a bug. It's easier. But it's also harder because now opportunities are still there, but now you have to be really good, and then you have to stand out for you to hook up those opportunities.
Thank you. Okay. So, how were you able to pick a field to focus on?
Have I focused? Anyways, I won't even say I focused. So I think let me remember. I think in 2021 ending. So I eventually graduated from school, like University of Lagos in 2021. And then when I graduated, and by the way, school is not Camo. I'm still a student. That's my own line of thought. I think school is important, especially if you want to go higher. It's easier with a certificate than without a certificate. But back to the point, let me not go around. It's that I found out that in what's I even answer yourself? Hey, I don't forget though. So I think I found out that I'm trying to remember the question. Please juggle my memory again.
Question is, how were you able to pick a field to
Oh
grow in?
yes. So I think in 2018, 2021, December, yes, about to enter the new year. So I sat down and I asked myself, so Dick, you are broke. What are the things that you can do? So at that time, I'd built like a very large project for a Fortune 500 in WordPress. So I was pretty good in WordPress dev or WordPress DevRel. At that point in time, I had certifications in product management. I'd done project management in a few places. Um, what else? I could also do normal DevRel. I can do program. So I had all these things to do that I already knew how to do over like all the different years of playing about the bush, beating around the bush. And of course, I could code. And then I did like a decision matrix. Um, I think you can Google a decision matrix. You can find the different types that we have. And then I sort of wrote each of those things based on how I felt doing them. Do I want to do them for somebody or do I want to do them for myself and all of that stuff? And then I arrived at what I'm currently doing now. I suspect that I'm going to have like a small career transition in a few very soon. I don't know when it is, but very soon. But and also so that decision matrix also applies. So what I would tell people is that especially if you are still in school, You have the luxury of like playing with something, finding out if you love it, and changing if you don't love it. But by the time you graduate, it's like much harder for you to navigate. So it's always easier, and that's my own belief system. It's always easier when you're in school for you to play around until you find something that works for you.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is, from when you started learning tech, when you got into tech, and from that time period, when did you start earning money from tech?
Ah, okay, let me see. When we say money, what are we referring to? That's also a very important thing to, because there's a baseline. So, for example, I would say that maybe the first set of money that I probably made will probably be in maybe 2016 or 2015 that I would say money. And that was from Facebook communities, doing some stuff in Facebook communities. Um, of course, compared to now, that was like very little, but it was still money. Money is money. Um, yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what will you recommend for newbies? Do you coming into tech? Will you advise them to stick to a particular field or explore a lot of field?
So
And why did you choose that?
I would share a link with I'll share a link with the organizers that they can probably share around. So I have this very interesting article that I send out to like, it was written by a friend of mine. And then when you check it out, you find out that you can see the different tech parts that we have. And you can, so my own take is reiterate anyone that you like the most or that looks like it looks very easy to you the most. Right? Don't forget, it's not easy. Play around with it and start it at least for a week. When you do it for a week, if you don't like it, switch. Now, what you find out is that if you eventually like it, then it's fine. It's your own. If you don't like it and it's not your part, you still have that small introductory knowledge from that week that even if they are, that you will not be a total novice if they are like speaking on that thing somewhere. So that's like my take. I would say play around. If you don't like it, move because career pivots happen every time. We've seen people that they have 10 years of experience and they're even switching to an entirely new, different field. But in all that you do, make sure that your fundamentals is very solid in that field, whatever field that you are selecting.
Thank you very much. So this will be my final question. So have you been faced with challenges before, like concerning tech, and how were you able to handle it? How did you overcome it?
So, challenge is not a finish. Oh. There's one famous philosopher said, problem no dey finish. Better days are coming. Anyways, so problems does not finish. I think that I've faced different challenges, sometimes from like um, how to navigate my time, sometimes from like I was looking for a job and everybody think like a big boy and you're covered, but you know deep down that you're broke and it's people like Debo that is funding your lifestyle. And so I would say that generally, like in general, like without being specific, number one, analyze the situation. I try to analyze situations a lot, find out what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. If you can talk to somebody about it, please do. Uh, Most times, they don't necessarily have to be somebody that is your senior. Sometimes it can just be somebody that is on your level. And you just, because you know, sometimes we forget that we take mentors very seriously. And we forget that the people on our level, they are also very important. Like people on the same cadre as us, they're also very important. So if you can talk to somebody on your level, find out what they are doing. Um, Also, apart from like talking to somebody on your level, also find out like um, just analyze the situation and then take it one step at a time. If something doesn't work, try another way, right? There's no like there are 100 ways to enter a market. So if something is not working, try something else until you figure out what works. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you.
Over to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sodiq. Thank you very much for everything you shared and the questions you answered on this call. We are very happy to have you answer those questions because they are questions that everyone on this journey to becoming a developer has or have had at a certain point in time. And you have you actually have an interesting roadmap, and I'm curious to know more about motion codes because I personally I live in Lagos and I live close to motion, but okay, that's by the way. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for everything you've shared. And I just want to quickly appreciate all the speakers that spoke today, Mr. Habib, Mr. Debo, and Mr. Sodiq, and also the GDSC FUNAB lead. So we'll be taking questions now. Debo, please. There's a question for you. The person said you mentioned that you started as a web developer and now you identify as a DevRel developer. How did you become a DevRel developer?
Okay, that's a very good question. Because I have like a very technical background and I've worked as a software engineer at multiple companies. Um, but then I'd say the way I got into developer relations was sort of accidental and not completely planned because um, I mentioned that I got really exposed to the developer community when I gained admission to FUNAB in my underlevel days, and I eventually became the lead of GDSC. But it just didn't stop at GDSC, right? GDSC was sort of like the start of my community engagement, because after then I got pretty much engaged in a lot of other communities. I remember the first one being AI Saturdays Abeokuta. That was one of the co-organizers. We're led by Carl Arts then, and a couple of other communities. There was ALC, um, ALC Google African Developer Scholarship, where I was the facilitator for that community in Ogun State. There was also other communities. I think there was the Open Source Community Africa in Abeokuta that I was the lead of. We eventually started a GDG Abeokuta, where we've had like multiple events organized, and we have like this annual Dev Fest. So there's been like a lot of other community engagement aside from me leading the GDSC. And eventually I was doing a lot of other stuff like writing. Obviously if you're leading and organizing community events, you get to organize not just meetups, at times conferences, workshops, webinars, and pretty much stuffs around that. I was doing a lot of writing too, because I just saw writing as a way of self expression for myself, where I learn something new, I get to teach people about it. So I write an article and people get to like it. So eventually I figured that I could do something called community management as a role, and I wanted to be a community manager. So I started to apply to community management roles. I realized I could create a community management CV for myself based on all of these experiences I've had. They were not jobs or roles that I took on as a paid role. They're just basically me volunteering my time for all of these different things. And then I looked at all the communities that I've helped organize or build or partake in at all, or that I've impacted in any way. And I figured that I was able to develop a community management CV, a community manager CV, right, with all of these experiences. And I started applying. I got a couple of interviews, a lot of no's here and there. But what struck out for me was that for some of the interviews I had, they were really big companies. And I was able to scale through at least the first three interview processes. I was only knocked out in the final stage, which was a green flag for me. So eventually, I felt why stop at community management, right? It's pretty much very similar or an aspect of being working in developer relations. So it was more or less, well, I don't think I've ever applied for a role as a developer relations person because currently I work at Postman as developer relations engineer. And when I initially applied to Postman, I applied as a technical community manager, right? But I also made it to the final stage. And like some of the interviews I've had in the past, there was someone else who was equally qualified for the role that they wanted to hire. So it was more like they wanted both of us, but they were maybe um I don't know, I was offered a different role from the one I had initially applied for, and eventually the other person got the role. And the other role I got initially was um, community collections lead, where I was leading the collections effort at Postman. But eventually, I transitioned from community collections lead into the developer relations team and transitioned into developer relations engineering role, which is also, well, very similar to the community management role, except that I'm not directly managing a community at Postman, right? So it's more like a progression of me volunteering my time to the community, just wanting to make impact in people, wanting to organize events, and doing all of this series of things, and eventually figuring out that, oh, I could even actually work full time doing this thing that I've been doing for free for a lot of years, and then coming up with a CV, then applying for roles, and accidentally getting into DevRel. Though as a community manager, right, I'd still be working under the developer relations team, right? But I didn't start out going out to want to become a developer relations engineer. It was something I transitioned into from wanting to become a community manager. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. That was a very, very, very comprehensive answer about how you ended up as a DevRel developer. I'm sure the person that asked the question would be very satisfied with the answer. Thank you, sir. So, the next question is for Mr. Happy Haxut. So, the question is, what entry level programming language will you recommend for a beginner just starting out in tech?
I don't think there's an actual answer to that. I think it depends on too many things to recommend something. If you are looking to build like mobile applications, then look for languages that would do the job for you there. If you're looking to build web application, look for languages that would work for you there. So the thought of entry level languages, I really don't like feel that that really applies in terms of the languages we have today, since most of the languages are like high level programming languages. So my answer to that is just look into the kind of software you're open to build, see what languages people use there, and just pick one. Uh, Another good thing could be you could see which one provides more jobs as well. That could be something else. But that suffices. Because if I'm to mention what language, I'll just say Python. But that does not solve a problem. So that's it.
Okay, sir. There's a follow-up question still directed to you, which is second to the last question we have in for this session. The question is, it is known you are an you graduated from engineering, College of Engineering. So how were you able to balance your engineering degree studies with your tech life?
I don't think I balanced it. Uh, Although I graduated like a second class upper, but uh, I don't think I balanced it. In most cases, it was more of just getting across the line. If I had like tests, trying to prepare as early as possible, trying to prepare as early as possible for exams as well. Relying on my colleagues at or my friends at school for things like assignments, because I really did not put in a lot of time into getting those kind of problems solved by myself. So there are other people who are my friends who were able to like do everything and do them well, but that's not my story. So it's not like an exciting one. You may not be looking to hear that, but I don't think I balanced it.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. So the next question is directed at Mr. Sadiq. The question is thus: will you not agree that trends have a huge role to play in career selection? Because over years there have been trends of fields that have been in high demand in tech, such as there was a time front end engineering was the trend, and data science is the new oil and all that. So, what is your advice to a beginner or as somebody that wants to go into tech? Because so that's just the question here. Thank you.
Ah, most people, great question. I think that it's true, right? Trends judge a lot of things, right? With regards to like the public view. Let me use that word, the public view of something and what everyone is jumping to. But what I would say is that it's super important to not let your steps be directed by trend, because everybody can be running to rubbish. So do your own due diligence by yourself. So first thing is, I think that if your fundamentals is correct, whether as data science is a new oil right now, like you said, I don't know about that one, Sha. It doesn't mean that folks are not doing um, front end again, or it doesn't mean that folks are not writing. People are still writing Fortran, all those strange. Of course, they are not as much, but all those strange things that it look like nobody writes, people still write them. So knowing like your fundamentals is very important, because no matter where you end up, so for example, if you are doing Python, for example, knowing it well, so that you can it's easier for you to pick up a new skill, is really important. Knowing like the basic computer science concept and all of that stuff. So that's the first part. The second part I would say is that when you know it, do your own research. While there might be trends, it's possible for you to be rushing to follow rubbish if everyone is going in that line. So also doing due diligence by yourself and knowing like Abib shared just now, whether for you is like the possibility of jobs, or whether for you it's, so for example, AI, everybody's shouting AI, but you can apply AI from different angles. So figuring out the angle that you want to come in is like what is important. Hope that helps.
Okay, sir. So you're trying to say that your decision of a path to follow in tech should not be trend oriented. It should just be based on what you feel comfortable with.
I believe so.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Um, we're about to round up the session, but there's just a last question that came in for Mr. Debo. What active community can you recommend for a beginner in FNAB here, apart from GDSE?
Well, that's a tough question. After GDS, it is GDSU. After GDS, it is GDSU. Pretty much, I wish there were a lot of other communities that are as active as GDSC where people have options. But I know that there's the AI Plus Club. I don't know how active they are now. For those interested in artificial intelligence, I don't know how active they are now or what activities they currently engage in. But I know there was a time when they were very, very active. There used to be AI Saturdays at Belkuta too, which was a weekly event, also very active, and while it lasted, it was really good. But apart from those ones within Funab, I haven't heard of anyone because I've not been as active as I used to in like the Funab community. So I think a better person to answer that question would probably maybe Peculiar. I don't know if she has heard of any other communities that are on campus that people could get engaged in. But after GDSC is GDSC, that's like my answer.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Debo. Actually, there are not a lot of tier communities like Infonab, but then I know of Atlassian. I know of GDSC, of course. I know of DSN FUNAB too. And then there is a tech community that is still just blooming now, that encompasses every tech community that is in FUNAB. So it's just tech communities FUNAB. That's the tag. But you can find every other person from other tech communities in that community. So it's just a new initiative and still growing. So that's basically tech communities we are for now.
Um, okay, thank you very much, Miss Peculiar. So we are done with the session, and we've heard from all the speakers. I want to sincerely appreciate all the speakers on this call. You stayed from the beginning to the end. It's an honor to hear from you, sirs, and it's an honor. I will not lie. Thank you so much for the wealth of experience you shared and the tips you shared. They are not in vain. So I will be handing over to Miss Peculiar to help us round up the whole after exam series for day one. That is providing more information about the day two and day three activities. Thank you, Ma.
Okay, thank you so much, Mood Michael. It was an honor listening to you moderate the event. And then to our amazing speakers, thank you, Badebo, thank you, Abib, thank you, Sodiq, thank you, Bumi. Thank you for honoring the invitation. And then it means a lot to actually hear from you and your experiences. Well, we'll be bringing today's event to a close because it's even 4 o'clock already. And that's all for today's event. The event continues tomorrow with a panel discussion from other four amazing speakers. Drum rolls. It's going to be a very, very interesting session and an enlightening one because these people are loaded. Just as the ones you have seen today, these other people are also loaded. Then the last day, which is on Saturday, would be our GDSC tracks exposition. So you get to know more about the tracks in GDSC, the tools that you basically need for each track, how to craft a roadmap for yourself, and several other things you need to know about GDSC tracks. So it will be an honor to have you bring lots of other people, your friends, your family members, your frenemies, anybody you can think of to come attend this session for the next 2 days. So thank you so much for everybody. And with this, I bring this session to a close. Thank you so much.